over the top. So again, I could just sort of stretch, but there's an energy flow that's coming up through the earth, through my body, through my side, extending out my fingers towards space. This other arm doesn't have to be dead. It's alive. There's a balance here. Both arms alive, reaching to the heavens, reaching to the earth. Extension, extension. Extension, flow. Part of something bigger than just this physical movement. Again, stretch. It's tempting sometimes for me to sort of slouch forward, exaggerating. Standing chest. So I'm feeling this motion is helping me to feel the base that's under me. Settling, dropping deeper, feeling the extension out my arms, feeling my back. Stretching. Supported, extension. Getting rid of these kinks, these bends, extending. And one more stretch. For myself, I love this connection to the earth. I'm always so grateful that it's there to support me. And feeling that all those resources down there just available to us. And a bit of a shoulder stretch. And the other shoulder. So forgive me, this is a 30-minute class. We're going to go sort of accelerate our way through what might be a normal flow. Heine. Reaching out, greeting my partner. This extension begins before we touch. Okay, it's here. Blend. Now Jill is going to help me here. A little bit of an energy coming up into my arm. Okay, my shoulders were stiff, but wasn't grounded. Settling deeper. Still not quite present enough. So this testing that Jill's doing, we're not setting up a competition. This is setting up an agreement that we'll have through our practice today. Helping each other, giving each other feedback, not trying to overcome, not trying to defeat, but to, in cooperation and connection, develop something more full, more complete. And I see that most people are moving along with us. I encourage you to do that throughout the practice. So here we have a physical partner. We can back apart just a little further. There's a distance now between us. The connection, you all know, and Joe comes in. So you all know this connection between people on the dojo, in the mat, across the mat, at the ends of the dojo. It begins. So we're training with a partner, physically present, connected, but not touching. Let's take it that next notch. Virtual partner. So this time, Jill is not here, but I have this sense, if I look at the screen, I have people out there. There's a sense of connection through the glass. I can move with you. Come back up, connect through the glass. All of these people out here, move with you. Okay. And so we'll come back to that pattern. Training in connection, training close by, training through the virtual space, across the virtual space. Okay, let's go to and again, Jill staying close so I can sense the physical connection between. If she moves, I can follow her. If I move, she moves. Okay. The detail. One of the things that my partner can do for me is point out openings. And this can be done in a very generous fashion. If my hand is up here above her elbow, There's nothing between me and that elbow. Jill does me a kindness, a service by pointing out that opening. Again, it's not a competition. This is a collaboration, if you will. And with our virtual partner, I felt myself get sucked into that void because that connection is so palpable. It's so real. And then virtual partner not present in the room. Really? Not. And switching roles, not grabbing into the hand, but moving in full bodied and allowing ourselves to be moved by that virtual partner. Our bodies remember, our systems remember what this feels like. Reach into that resource. So let's move to the next blending. Forgive my back. I'm going to turn us around a little bit here. When my hands came into center, they're here joined and they're connected to my heart, to my center. Okay. If I allow this space to exist, Jill or a strong partner maybe comes under, maybe can pull my arm away. Right? There's not a lot of strength. I'm relying on strength of my shoulder, of my arm at this point. If I can bring this in and connect to my center, and Jill pulls on it now. She's pulling on my full body weight, and I'm tempted to do something with that as it goes on. So the initial blend to center. Okay. And at center here, this is a root, again, dropping down into that deep place, supported by all of this energy below, all of this potential that exists here in this position to move, to go to something different. Work screwing down to potential. So we'll do that one more time with a partner, virtual partner. Okay. Virtual partner. Okay. Lock down. Add one more element to this. As you turn, Ano Sensei talks about training in great nature. And if you're looking down like this as you turn, you can't see all that beauty that's out there. So I like to have my head up, able to watch the world around me, be aware of something beyond the hand that's holding my wrist or coming from my wrist. So as we move, not head down, rather enjoying the beauty of this world. Gaze out. Okay, just one more moment with it. Okay, and then moving into that place of potential. Okay. Potential there, expanding. Potential, expanding. Nadeau Sensei talks about the origin of the universe, everything in that tight single point, opening from there. That's the feeling I have here. Tight single point, opening from there. Okay. So let's take just 5 minutes. I'm going to put people into breakout rooms, 3 to 5 people in a room, something on that order. Take a chance. If you don't know the people, say hello. Move together. Feel the connection that you have through this ping, 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 ping virtual space. Enjoy that connection. We'll be about 4 or 5 minutes. Oh, there's a screen up there somewhere. Oh, there it is. Well, I'm going to open the rooms and we'll see what we get. I'm sorry, I don't have the control right now to add the number that I wanted. Where did that go? There we go. Here we go. 5 minutes.
It'll go faster if everyone accepts the room.
As we all learn how to use breakout rooms. So everybody's still here together, right? Well, let's not take this time to figure out how to run this. Thought we had it. We did a dry run and okay. To be discussed later among the technical team. We'll figure that out. So we'll move forward. Let's move to get a different technique. Ski. Okay. I'd like you to meet COVID, right? We've got this energy coming in, and the reality is the practice that we've been doing is perfect for this. Holy shit. Everything tenses. I can't move. I'm open. I've used settle, ground, open, breathe as a travel vehicle in this last year. And I can't tell you how many times I go through that set of 4 words and my system's cued in now. You need to be present, need to be grounded, need to be more full. So I've got energy coming in, settle, ground, open, breathe. And here we are. To me, it feels like the same practice. I don't like grabbing at the arm. I get caught there. So I don't know if you noticed, my arm is here and extended, and it's inside the elbow. So I can do many things with it. But I'm in a position of relative safety. Behind my partner, close. If I move, she moves. So stepping back a little bit, separate from each other. Taking a moment, double count. My weight's a little bit high. I can settle that. And without a partner. Let's move to slightly different blend. See again. I don't want to get caught up on this. So I just let my hands rest here. It's still moving a bit. I have flexibility in my body. I've got these shock absorbers that can adapt, that can absorb, that can move with her. Ski again on this side, same time. If I catch, everything constricts, and I get a reaction out of my partner that I'm really not looking for. It's impossible, I think, to do this and not draw something out of your partner. It could be unfortunate. So again, it's coming in. And all those possibilities. there's a flow coming in. And in this first motion, did an initial blend with that, and it became static at that point. Now let's let it actually flow through. Okay. So Jill comes in. Okay. Again, just drawing Jill to my center. I move, she'll move. Not getting caught up in a grab. So, thank you, Jill. Without a partner, virtual uke. Once more with a partner. Take it to one more motion, very, very similar initial blend.
Grab or shove?
Fully extended, not caught up, extended. It's, again, so easy to get caught up in doing something to a partner. Just a second. This motion could be that. Right? Doing a Yankyo perhaps, or something quite powerful and quite focused. It's also possible to expand outward. And in expanding, I touch my partner. Doing something, and yeah, there's a Yankyo in there, and perhaps there she is. I need to be very sensitive to my partner. I came into a point of conflict. I bumped. I was insistent. Larger, more full, bigger. Okay. So I'd like to thank you for class. We're going to do a very simple bow out and then stay together for a minute or two more. Okay. Thank you all. Now, if you'll join me here in the virtual dojo, this is where we let our body memory, our system memory play one more time. So let's join hands in this virtual dojo. It's joining hands. And it's joining here. Here in this virtual dojo. I have physical touch here. I've got energetic touch on the other side. And please play the game. Let your eyes close. Feel the space that we're in. Maybe there's the ventilation coming from off in the corner in this large auditorium. But there's energy flowing around the circle. I feel the touch. I feel the touch. Breathe. Gratitude for all being here together. Thank you all. Thank you.
Definitely.
Okay. We're wrapped there, Bob? Okay. We started a little late, meant to give you a little more time, but you gave it back to us. Thank you. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. And when we come back, if I'm reading this correctly, I believe we'll have Elaine. Is that
Bob,
right?
if I may, just thank you much for being with us today. And I just wanted to share with you, I was watching you and I was thinking, God, you have a really nice connection with the ground. And all of a sudden you said, I just love connecting with the ground. I think that was really, kind of charming. And it's what do you call synchronicity or something like that. Anyhow, I really enjoyed watching your movement. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. So, okay, let's take 5 minutes. It's 3:28. At 3:33, we should be starting back with Elaine. Okay? I'll leave the meeting open and the open mic, chat, get coffee, whatever works.
I'd just like to say thank you to Bob. Much appreciated.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bob. It's been a while.
Been a while. My comment earlier, there are so many faces that you're people that I virtually never get to see, or maybe once a year or every couple of years. And just, this has been one of the real joys of this last year. Now, please, somebody grab my wrist.
Also, the circle connection in the end, it was very beautiful. Thank you for that. It was very good.
Yeah, I find that my body, my system, my cells remember the feeling. Right? It's there. And just given the slightest excuse, the reactions in my body, the way I settle, the way I feel, the way I respond, doesn't have to be physical, but all of those same changes happen. Yeah, so grateful for this art.
Thanks, Bob. That was great.
Thank you. I like your COVID beard.
That's exactly what I call it.
Well, I admit that I cheat. I have a Wall Pro Basic, which is one of those hair trimmers. And I step up, excuse me, I step out on the deck, close the sliding glass door, which now becomes a very effective mirror, and trim my hair. I love the artwork behind you.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Is that your own?
Yeah, it's some of my pieces there. Actually, pretty much all of them except for one in the corner, which you probably can't see. So,
No, simply wow.
thank you. No, that was terrific, and as Richard Moon Sensei said, I appreciated your immediate connection and obvious connection to the ground, and beautiful way to get us going and continue as well. So thank you.
Yeah. Good to see you.
So for anyone who's on break, we'll be starting in a couple of minutes if you want to get set up.
Back into.
And anyone who hasn't taken a break and wants one, now would be a great time. I see Elaine is ready. And we're on our 1 minute countdown, let's say. And maybe we'll give, well, 30 seconds or so to Elaine if she, as soon as she comes on screen there we are. Hi, Elaine. You're muted.
Okay,
Okay,
so now you can hear me.
we hear you. A little soft.
Sorry,
A little soft to speak up.
a little soft. Oh, okay, I can speak up. Can you hear that better?
Everybody says yes. Okay, so without further ado, Elaine Yoder,
Yeah.
thank you.
Is it still set? Oh, there
We're
I am. Okay. Hello, everyone. I think Bob's introduction was very acceptable for what we've all been dealing with in the past year, and it's been very helpful to have regular meetings like on Friday night and some of the other Zooms that I've been doing with other people. It's been helpful. The remoteness still kind of drives me nuts. I will say that. So let's do our best at coming together with this here. I think I'll just bow us in, just a simple bow again. This is our showman here. Find your showman. Okay, so just to kind of stay with some of the beginnings of what we've been working with. See if you can just find a quiet, standing sense of up and down that you could call your version of center or your feeling of center. It could be a column, it could be a line, it could be wider. It'll probably change as the class goes on. And let that feeling of this up and down line really be fluid so that there isn't, there's less of the feeling of, especially as you start moving around, that you don't want to try to hang on to your center. You want to just have it. It's just present. It's just there through you. It's an alignment. So it's not you, it's just through you, and it's how you line up to a particular form in a way. So let that gradually develop in a way where it can become higher and lower in your connection, the feeling of up and down. Eventually, over time, this feeling of up and down can integrate into up and down happening at the same time, just happening through you, and that there's space for that. And keep in mind also that this center up and down alignment here is very much related to our alignment to gravity, our alignment to the middle of the planet, and our alignment out into the universe. And that grounding goes way through us and way above us. And that our grounding point here is in our physicality. And that this moves through that physicality smoothly, evenly. So now begin to, if you will, you can step out of it for a minute and step back. As you start exploring this a little bit more, see if you can bring a little more of what we call circle and center into this, and that from this center alignment that you've got a middle here, and then there's just a more natural feeling of how this might tend to bring more of a width of flow or a spreading of flow or even a direction of flow. And just go with that. Keep in touch with the grounding, the feeling of grounding down through your feet, the connection to the earth. And from that connection to the earth, then as we begin to let this spread, that the spread of your grounding is going out and supporting how you are as this begins to, as you begin to experience a wider dynamic, a wider spread of dynamic, that in the up and down, there's a little more flow or spiral in it. And now, just coming out of that for a moment, what I wanted to play with a little bit in this is, as soon as Lauren's done here, could you be my partner for just a minute?
Of course.
This will be a distance partnering. So yes, I'm still in. So just start with fingertips. And then bring your hand down and just stand and face your partner. You can be in Heiny or you can just stand evenly. Just find a kind of neutral, quiet stance here. And just let yourself go into connecting back to feeling where you are, feeling around your environment here, and beginning to include more of that person in your environment, more of the space, more of how they are in their space, how they are in their grounding, that I can start to feel a front and a back and some width. And then from there, just take a step, just a couple feet back. So we'll have to limit this according to our space, but that'll still work. So just bring that distance out a little farther and come back to connecting with each other, to just standing and just being together here. And just find that kind of natural way that we resonate or sense our experience together here. That even though there has to be space at times, you can still connect. You can still move together, breathe together, sense the world in a similar way for a moment. Let your breath settle. So that's starting to feel much more solid or present for the two of us here in my experience of this. Okay. And now you'll need to watch out behind you, but take another little step back. Just distance it a little farther. Yeah, I'm still in the home. And again, same practice, same thing. You should be getting better at it now. Even though there is this distance, you can still find this resonance, this way of now maybe a little more spread of connection underneath and around us, and that the environment is our place of relating. And that it isn't really just, I mean, you can go heart to heart, you can go center to center, you can go back to back, hip to hip, feet to feet. All of those are options. As much of that as you want to add or take away, and keeping it simple is probably better. What I begin to experience more personally is within this rapport of our physicality here, that I feel a nice connection in this space that we're in, that I can feel Laurin's back and sides, and feel a connection under our feet. And that you can just take some time and practice developing this with a partner, where you move farther apart. You don't have a lot more room to move apart. But as you do this, notice that you can go pretty far and still have that quite readily available. that it really, once you clarified what this is, where you're starting from and how this is developing or unfolding, that taking that extra space really is just a matter of allowing it to fill in, allowing that connection to continue to come in. The back, the space around the front. Okay, so now slowly come back together and notice how you feel coming back to that initial ma'a. Find that initial connection, the distance that we started with, and just notice the difference in how you feel here now. Almost feels too close in a way. It's really a lot of information, a lot of experience, and what I like to call resonance, or just a healthy vibe between the two of us in this environment. Okay, so then staying with that for just a moment, I want to go to doing a little bit of movement, but without actually touching. Okay, so if I ask for Laurin to do a showman, then I can move with that showman and we can stay connected, and I can start coming back with that in a way where he might begin to feel a little more through him. Okay. It's very tempting to move in close and touch, but see if you can avoid that. I noticed I had to sneak a little finger onto his elbow there. So yeah, so he's coming in a showman. I'm gonna bring this down this time, okay? And then come up and over and just let the sweep of this carry it, okay? The more you can use this practice to keep connecting through the distance, that you actually are connecting with some space. The more of that, the better. It's right over here. Let's start with it. Down and just turn it. So we can still do showman, but I'm just going to receive it and turn it. Good. Is this okay? Are you guys getting this? Looks like you're moving. Turning. That's it. Okay. And really, it's I'm moving with the same quality of continuing to feel that what he's doing is a real and valuable and potent movement, and that it's going to be different every time, and that we're looking for what we're looking for here and practicing with is an experience and not maybe finding answers. Let's go back to, yeah, we're still. Keep the showman, but I want to go back to receiving it and coming over the top. Okay, so he's coming in showman. I'm going to receive it and then come over the top. Yeah. And in my dealings with this, in my feeling of moving with this, what I'm sensing is there's something that I'm comfortable being with and feeling, and his way of feeling and being and moving, and that becomes more alike over time, that we begin to sort of in this relating. It's kind of like people looking like their pets. It's a situation where, you know, it's not just that you're you and he's him. It's that you're both in this situation together, and you're becoming more alike in it, in a way. Switch, because I'm getting blinded. There, that's nice. Okay, so turn some back. Yeah. How are we doing? Is everybody okay there? If you're moving on your own, the way we did in the beginning, you can feel how you are with the earth and the wind, the sun, and all of this that's going on today. You can just take some time to quiet and line up and be with it. And what I'd like to do, just personally, what I like to do from one day to the next, I may have mentioned this on one of the other Zooms, but I really like doing just in my general daily practices as I'm hanging out in the world. I'm going for a walk, or I'm standing and really working in alignment practice and levels and all of that. I notice what I'm attracted to, what grabs my attention. And it's often a large tree. There's so much there. And it's not just as a metaphor for what you're feeling. It's as something that you are already in that day. And that's how that resonance is there. That's how that rapport, or that feeling of liking trees. The roots spreading underneath, the branches spreading from a trunk above, and that activity of responding to the elements of the world. Another day, you might really enjoy the flow of the creek. Just take the time to be with that. Just take the time, just sense it for a moment. Give yourself the time to just sense, how is that different? This feeling of water moving over a surface, moving through a surface. Okay, so a creek isn't just running on the top of the rocks and around them, it's running down, it's down underneath, and what we can see is what's actually moving on top. It's a deep flow of water that happens below the surface that normally we wouldn't pay attention to or ask about. It's there. And if you take the time to just stand and sense, you can begin to tune in to how that water moves underneath as well. Taking wind or air movement as another variable, another something that you might find you're enjoying one day, that texture in the air. We can feel the texture of the air because it's moving, it's brushing across us, and it has a quality of lightness or a gusty quality of pushing, but there is texture in it, and it's coming from somewhere and moving through and moving on. And that's something that you can also kind of take the time to just open up to. Feeling that this elemental quality of the air moving around, moving through. Can you be spacious enough that you can feel a bit of that quality of how air might move through? Taking that into doing a practice. Can I use you again, Laurin? I think I want a yokomen. So if he's coming in a yokomen, we're not going to be very close. We can take this flow into a pretty big spiral. And that initially here, as you're doing this yokomen, even if you're doing it by yourself, notice that initially it's kind of a big spread of finding logistics of where you're going to be and how are you going to move together and maintain that that quality of distance or spread that's still connected, still feeling related. Okay, and then gradually that can begin to open and deepen as well, and that, you know, there's less attention on the pattern of the movement and a little more opportunity to pay attention to how this movement generates a dynamic, and that there's a generation of a dynamic of energy coming through this. It's very much affecting both of us. He's bringing what he has into this, and what I'm doing initially, we can practice this for a minute too, so just stop for a minute, is once you've got more of a feel of what the movement is, I like doing this after you've done a little bit. Take a moment to to just connect again, be with each other again. And as Nage, what I'm going to do is see if I can feel when he's initiated, when his attention is clear. Can I sense that? And you can practice it with your partner, or you can just see how early you sense that strike coming in. So it's especially interesting for me facing this way because I'm kind of blinded. There's a lot of sun coming at me this way, and I can see the shape of his gi. What begins to come in then is a little more variety or a flavor of how this can naturally change and grow in a way. And also that it really kind of doesn't matter whether we can physically touch each other or not. After a while, and we've been doing this for a year, so we should be pretty good at it. This feeling of connected intention in this movement together, and that my assumption is that he has at least the grounding and the expansiveness in the process that I'm lining up with when I start. I just assume that he's there and that he's got it, and he's coming in with that. So it's not so much that he's off, he's attacking because he's off. He's bringing everything about his alignment, his own process of presence and being in the world. He's bringing all of that in with him as well. And I'm, in a way, as Nage, I'm honoring that by being with it and bringing all of this into a spread of deeper. Okay. Yeah, thank you. So with a few more minutes left here, just come back to lining up again, come back to standing. Notice the difference in the way you feel now, this feeling of rootedness in a way, rootedness that allows for fluid movement. Let yourself breathe. Notice this kind of ease in allowing for this center core of alignment and the width around it. How it's much easier for me here to feel a lot more about what's going on around me. When I first started doing this, I didn't notice that there were birds chirping, and there are. At this point now, I really kind of feel like, oh yeah, there's a lot involved in this. There's the redwood trees moving, there's the birds chirping, there's this uneven patio surface to move on and move under. Whatever you have there as a variable, or in a way a challenge, use that, take the time, give yourself the time to explore how something might be different and how that might be an okay thing for a while. This is not just a metaphor of COVID, it's what we've been doing all along. The opportunity here is to deepen the practice even more. Okay. So I think I want to bow it out here and leave a few minutes for discussion or questions. So just face your Shomen again. We'll just do a single bow. Thank you very much. Good. It's really nice to have an opportunity to see all of you here. If anybody has any comments or anything they want to say, I'm here for a couple more minutes.
Hi, Elaine, Richard. I just very impressed watching you just the minute you walked out. And again, it was very much like Bob's thing. I was watching something and I really, and this is maybe a personal bias, but I just really appreciate seeing a lot of depth connection. And And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And then the analogy that you used, where you said, well, you know, you see the surface, but there's all this moving under the surface that you can't see. And I thought that's exactly what I was watching when I watched you move. Oh, that was really neat, really beautiful. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for
Hey,
your
Elaine,
patience with I haven't taught on Zoom except maybe twice. So this has been a particularly nice setup and a nice opportunity for this. So that made it easier too.
Elaine, thank you very much.
Yeah, hi Lou.
Appreciated how you went about teaching, and at the end, how you were talking about just being more aware of the tree moving, the wind. It really connected to the entire practice. So thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
All right.
Hi, Elaine. It's Mike from New Zealand. I'd just like
Hi.
to say thank you very, very much. And yes, this business of connection, that in the beginning we assume we have to touch in order to feel connected. Then as you go along the way, you discover that in fact you can feel without touching. And that sense of
Yes.
connection, exactly what you were doing, and distance isn't necessarily a barrier to it. It opens a whole new world, basically. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was also reminded of training with partners who have injuries of various sorts. They can move, but maybe they have a shoulder that's just barely starting to allow movement. And the connection needs to be so light, you know, the touch of a feather.
Mhm.
There's this feeling. There's just barely anything there physically, and yet the connection's so strong.
Mhm. That's beautiful. Thanks. Yeah.
Hi, Elaine. I really appreciate everything, but for me, it was really strong the way that we stepped forward and backward to a partner. So we are for a long time without seeing everybody that we always used to meet. So how do we take that time to get closer again and then step back and still keeping the connection from this getting closer and getting back? So that was very, very profound. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. So I think we're good. If you want to, Kenny, if you want to just take a break and then Laurin can start.
Absolutely.
Is that too soon? Are you okay with that?
One last, okay, well, sounds like we're done on the comments. But we have 5 minutes where you can still, we're all here and you can still chat about anything that came up for you. And Laurin, we'll start at 4:05.
Right.
4:05. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Elaine.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Good.
Elaine.
Sun from here.
Okay, we're coming up on the 5-minute mark. For those of you who have managed to get a break in, for those of you who haven't, we're still at the 5-minute mark. I see Laurin.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to my garden. And I'm going to bow in, and then we'll begin. So our first two teachers today have shown what's possible with a partner, even if you're not touching or you're soft as light as a feather. Elaine, you saw work without touching, and she actually, unbalanced me quite effectively without touching me. But my session in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to concentrate on solo practice. When we set this up, we didn't even know that we were going to be even close to being able to practice together. But I think that the real challenge this year has been finding a way to keep our Aikido going without partners. And so I'm going to do a few things that can be done by yourself. And I'd like to start with the rowing exercise that's part of Shin-Kokyu. I'm not going to do the full Shin-Kokyu exercise, but Teja Bell Sensei last week showed us that there are many forms of rowing possible, right? And he made the point that many spiritual paths use some form of rowing as a part of their practice, with or without sound. Certainly when I came into Aikido, especially when I went to Japan, and especially when I went to the Shingu Dojo, which was more traditional than Honbu, this Shin-Kokyu, rowing, and the rest of it was a part of daily practice. So if you'll stand in left hanmi, right, and we're going to reach forward with the back of our wrists. We're going to reach forward, and we're going to draw back, and we're going to close our hands from the pinky and make a tight fist and bring it back to our wrists, and then out again and close, right? As you rock forward. So top half of the body stays more or less up, vertical. The knees rock forward, and the hips drive the hands forward. Okay, so everybody's done this 1,000 times. I don't need to concentrate on the form. What I do want to ask you to do is to add your voice. The voice in Shin-Kokyu, as done in Aikido, is a real important part. The vocalization is yi and ho. Yi, ho. This is literally what Nadeau Sensei was talking about last night, hei and ho. Masculine, feminine, yin and yang, in and out. But actually vocalizing, yi, ho, yi, ho. Now, I want you to try something with me. With no voice, let's do this. And I want you to sense how your breath is working. This is a 2 count, right? Out, in, out, in. Okay, center stays down, hips stay down, feet are on the ground, and you're rocking, and you're moving, right? And now, for me, when I do this with no voice, I get inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And let's just stop for a second. Now, I'm going to ask you to step forward with your right Heiny, right foot, and we're going to add the voice. The voice is on each stroke, right? Yi, ho, 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 yi, ho. And just come to center again. Now, I want to make a point here that I'd like you, I'm outside, so I can use a large voice. I can really let my voice out. Those of you who are indoors, we don't want to scare the rest of your family or have the neighbors calling the police. So you can't use a big voice, but any sound, even if it's soft, is important. All right, so that you can hear your own voice. So you can hear your own voice. All right, here's go. Left Heiny. Yi, ho, 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 yi, ho. And come on back to center. Now I'm going to tell you a secret of Aikido. When you do this with your voice, you have exhale, 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 because you're making a sound. You can only make a sound on the exhale. Yi, ho, yi, ho, yi, ho, yi, ho. So once again, listening to your own voice, stay connected to the ground. Don't come up here, right? It's not up here. It's down here. It's your center going forward. And as you can see, after COVID, I have more center than I used to have. Right? Yi, ho, 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 yi, ho. Stay with me. Yi, ho, 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 yi, ho. So why do we do this? It's called a rowing exercise. It's not about rowing boats, right? And of course you can feel the stability. You can build a lot of physical stability in your legs and in your center, and your body starts to coordinate. Your hips push your arms forward. Your ankles are moving, right? So there's a coordination that's going on, but no thinking, no thinking. This is an exercise to take you out of your head into your body with your voice. All right, so one more time. We're going to go a little longer this time. Right Heiny. Yi, ho, yi, ho, yi, ho. Try and keep the pace that I'm setting. I'm like the metronome. Yi, ho, 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 He, 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 ho. Sense, check in with yourself. How do you feel? I feel oxygen coursing through my blood. I feel my feet on the ground. Right? I feel the sunshine in my eyes. So now let's add to this just the most simple thing you can possibly imagine. We're going to walk. We're going to have our left Heiny, and we're going to slowly, ever so slowly, walk. And ever so slowly, walk. Ever so slowly, walk. And we're going to go backwards. Now walk around. Walk around. Doesn't matter where you go, what you do. Just shake it out. Shake it out. It's not about muscle memory. It's about centering and settling and opening to the ground to support us. All right, so once more, we're going to start in left Heiny. We're going to walk ever so slowly forward. And backwards. And a walk around. So far, we've done pretty basic Aikido. We've done breathing, he, ho, and we've done walking. Anybody can do this at home. Anybody can do this. For the rowing, if you want to find a place to really let your voice out, go to the shoreline of the bay or the ocean or the mountains or into a park where nobody's around. So you don't feel inhibited, so that you can let your full voice out. Your full voice to your own ears, remind you of who you are and who you could be, and sometimes surprises you. Last night, Nadeau sensei talked about sometimes chanting and hearing sounds that couldn't possibly come from his voice. And I have to say that while I don't do methodical chanting, I have done this exercise, Shinko-kyu, at a side of a lake in Wisconsin once, and I swear it was like somebody else inside me shouting, and it awakened me to the understanding that the Laurin that I think I am is only part of who I am. right? That myself is more than what I imagine it to be, or what I define it to be. And so hearing your own voice and the full-throated power of your own voice is something that can really fit into your Aikido. So in the next few minutes, I'd like to do the next most basic Aikido technique, Tai no Henko, literally means change the body. Now, we're going to do it slowly. We're going to pay attention to the shifting of the weight and the turning on the ball of the foot and so forth. But after 50 years, it'll be 50 years that I've been doing Aikido this coming October, I think I'm pretty clear that the most difficult part about Tai no Henko is changing your heart, right? Changing your mind. Yes, we practice physically changing direction, but it leads us to be more open to the idea of changing our mind, to a change in plans, a change in schedule. COVID is a big change of plans. And we've all had to learn how to do Tai no Henko in our personal lives. It was going this way. I had this job, I had this relationship, I had this appointment, I had this schedule. But no, that path is blocked. You have to turn and do something else, right? So if you would, let's do Tai no Henko, and we're going to do it slowly, and then we're going to pick up speed. All right, so I'm going to start in left Heiny, and I'm going to have my right foot back, and I'm going to reach with my right hand. I'm going to step. I'm going to turn. Bring my left foot back. Everybody on this call is more than a white belt, and so you already know how to do it. So what can you put into it of yourself? What can you find in this slow motion Tai no Henko? Can you understand the mechanics of shifting yourself? The way you shift the weight, the way your feet have to operate, how your feet are connected to your hips, how your hips are stable and your head is up. Let yourself settle, relax. Tai no Henko, we practice with partners in the dojo, but it's not about throwing somebody, it's about turning yourself, changing yourself, while you keep your balance, while you keep your center, while you keep your feet on the ground. Now, I'd like to ask you to, with me, to pick up the pace, and we're going to do a sequence of them. We're not going to go really fast, but we are going to go several in succession. And I'll even count them out. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Settle. Open. Breathe. Once more on my count. I'm going to start with left Heiny. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And once again, settle. Now, the last two times I've asked you to keep synchronous with me. Now I'm going to ask you to not be synchronous with me, but as you reach your hand out to initiate Tai no Henko, you imagine somebody approaching you. And when you feel them close enough to do Tai no Henko, do it. Don't wait for me. Everybody at their own pace. Ready? Go. I can't tell what you felt, but I can tell what I felt. And what I felt is that in this last sequence, some of the Tai no Henko is faster and some of it's slower. It varies, but it's liberating, right? Instead of being on a metronome, we want you to be on your own pace, reacting to your own sensibilities, your own sensing of the situation, of the environment, of the energies around you. And so if you could, we're going to go again one more, and we're going to be at our own pace. All right, so settle, open, and Tai no Henko at your own pace. And come on back here. Come on back. Like many of you, I've been in years of Nadeau Sensei's dojo classes, and he does something like this. All right, I'd like to practice that with you. So as you come down here, this is all encompassing, all opening. This is left and right, yin and yang, comes together. Make a clapping sound that you can yourself hear. And settle. Bend your knees, let your center sink. Boom. Okay, here we go. Whoa! Oh, and you can let out your own ki. When Nadeau Sensei talks about this Shazam moment, right? How we can transform ourselves in an instant to a higher dimension. Sitting here and clapping is not going to do it by itself. You can clap 1,000 times. You're not going to be lifted to the next dimension except from inside yourself. But this little physical moment can help you, can support the effort, can spark a little taste of it. All right, so once more, the sound you make is for yourself. Whoa. Open your throat, let your voice out as you settle. Whoa. Whoa. And I like to do this. This reminds me of where my center is. Left, right, up, down. Oh. So I have just 3 or 4 more minutes in my allotted time. And I'd like to talk just a minute to everybody. Challenge for the pandemic for us Aikidoists has been, how do we practice Aikido without a partner? You know, like most people, I love practicing with partners. I get a lot of feedback from my partner. I get feedback through my body. I learn how to make better relationships by practicing with partners. How do I do Aikido with no partner? Now, Nadeau sensei has been literally a guiding light during this last year, leading us into an inner practice with just a few general motions. You know, today we could have done this. We could have done this, but I didn't want to do that one. I did another one. Right? Nadeau sensei also does like receive and extend. You know, receive and extend. Doesn't matter which one you do. The only thing that matters is what you invest yourself into. You can make practice out of anything. A few months ago, Susan Spence talked about chopping wood and how she was able to turn that into an alignment and practice so that her actions were consistent with gravity as her axe went down through the wood. Elaine talked about how when she treats Feldenkrais clients, because she's a Feldenkrais practitioner, how she has to align herself so that she can help them align themselves. Yeah. Doing these slow motion walking is to turn internally, to turn your awareness inside, right? It's not a technique. Might help you walk better, but that's not a technique. You know, I have a bookshelf with 100 Aikido books. None of them say, learn how to walk, and then you can do Aikido. But it's the most basic thing as human beings with 2 legs, is to learn, once again, like a child, how to walk with more higher level of consciousness about what you're doing. This is something that you can do by yourself. Or if you have a friend or a spouse or a couple of mates, you can all do it together. You know, we used to do it standing in a circle, but for COVID, you should all be standing facing the same way or facing away from each other. All right. It's going to be a long time before we're back in the dojo without a mask, breathing on each other. So better to adopt some techniques that you can do by yourself. Right? Remember, he, ho, breath, breath, exhale, 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 exhale. It might seem unnatural at first not to be taking any inhalations, but you can wonder about that in your spare time, how that can be possible, that you can sustain an activity with no inhalations. But in fact, you can. And this exercise, right, with the voice, yi, ho, ho, is a different way of operating. That your system learns a different way, different from the normal. And that difference will hopefully allow you to experiment with other things, to experiment with a Aikido philosophy, Aikido mentality, and Aikido approach to your life and to other people. You know, we practice Aikido as a martial art. The martialness keeps us honest. But O-sensei was clear, I believe, from all the teachers that I've heard from, Nadeau sensei and Hikazuchi sensei and Ano sensei and Terry Dobson sensei, Sao Tome sensei, and all the other teachers that I've had, they're all very clear. It is an inner spiritual practice that we learn through the tradition of martial art. And the martialness of it teaches us how the world works. It's three-dimensional mechanics, it's momentum, it's inertia, it's balance. But inside of all that is your attitude, your posture, your breath. And if you can lift yourself, transform yourself, allow yourself to be more than you think you are, then every one of us can taste the essence of Aikido as O-sensei left it for us. And I think make ourselves better people and make a better world. So thank you very much. I'm out of time and I'm going to bow out and ask you to join me. Thank you, Elaine.
Thanks.
And so I think that Elaine and I can be on camera to answer questions, and Bob Leichner, if you go on camera, you can answer questions too. So I think that
Thank you very much, Laurin.
somebody has a question, shout it out.
Should we take a minute or two to see if anyone has questions for Laurin?
Well, I just
Specifically.
wanted to say, Laurin, I kind of really appreciated your, how did you say it? I had the sense that I'm more than I was able to sense. And so I sense that I appreciate that even more than I was able to sense that I appreciate it.
Thank you, Richard.
No, sincerely, thank you.
Yeah, Laurin, I just wanted to say fantastic session.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you very much.
Thank you, Laurin Sensei. Appreciate it very much. Great session.
So I'm going to pull some chairs up for Elaine and myself, and we'll take questions.
Many of you know David Brown. He was an old timer. He was there before me, but he's now into shooting competitively with shotguns. But he used a term that I really liked. He called it what they in their world call left of shot, meaning everything you do before you pull the trigger. I don't know why. I thought I'd share that while we were sitting here.
Yeah, it seems to me that in some ways, the whole COVID experience has actually been a gift to us in Aikido, because it does put pressure on us, or not pressure is the wrong word, but it gets us to look at ourselves first rather than the problem we've got to deal with, which tends to be uke, no matter how we approach that in the class. It just seems to me that, yeah, this is a unique opportunity, which under normal circumstances probably wouldn't have happened.
I think that's really accurate, Mike, that it's easy enough to think that you're in a martial arts dojo and you're your task, your job is to throw the guy or pin him or, avoid the attack. But O-sensei said that Aikido is shugyo, self-refinement, ascetic discipline, training yourself. He did not say this is the best way to throw people. Now, he may have started that way when he was a younger person, but by the time he left us what we now call Aikido, he himself had risen above that sense of how can I, kill you before you kill me, because that is the thousands of years of human tradition in martial arts. The extraordinary thing about Aikido is that O-sensei said that martialness can teach us or become love, right? And that this training is really an internal training. The external training is a discipline, it's a form. It provides a vehicle for our internal challenge, for us to meet our own personal internal challenges, I think. And so, as you said, Mike, it's, if there's a silver cloud in the pandemic, it's forced us to turn inward in our practice. So, yeah. You want to add anything to that?
I think that a big part of the growth in this, in a way, if you can, yeah, you can call it that, has been that we really do have, we already have the tools to continue with our process of relating and being with the world. We're already developing that in this art. It's a huge part of what the art is about. And I think the words that keep coming up for me are, take the time, give yourself the time to clarify and simplify how you are at a particular time, in a particular moment. And that if you're, you can notice that if someone's walking towards you and they're your friend, notice how you respond. This person that you already know is walking towards you and you feel welcoming and, all of the things that we feel when we know somebody that we like is walking towards us, right? So what happens if a stranger walks towards you? There's the checking, there's the, okay, who is this person? Is this person going to walk by? Is this someone? No, this person's connected to me. So how am I going to still sort of develop a calm in how we can be together? This is part of the really nice thing that was said about, coming back into relationship, coming back into closeness, physicality, is that in a way we've gotten to be so good at this kind of inner practice and connecting through the distance, that this sudden closeness is like, okay, I need to kind of come back to myself and keep and then check out and come back to myself and check out. And if I'm, walking along and there's someone on a trail, I can line up to them just as easily as I can line up to a tree. They don't have to know anything about it. I can just walk and feel how they are in the world. It's not intrusive. It doesn't have to be weird or creepy. It's just, you're just walking and letting them have their space, but, walk with them way back, line up, see what that's like to be in their world for just a minute. It's the same as lining up to a redwood tree. It's a moving person, or a dog. Dogs walking along. Okay, this reminds me of a thing. I had a dog long ago that was a puppy, and we were learning, teaching, learning about recall. And my partner at the time said, every time I call the dog, she doesn't come to me. She always just comes to you. And I watched him and I realized that, he was just calling her. And what I sort of tended to do, I think because of our practice, was to feel when she was receptive to being called and call her and she would come to me. I didn't call her if she was busy, roughhousing somewhere. I didn't try that initially. I let that happen and called her when she seemed receptive to it. When I knew there was enough of a prick of an ear there that she could pick me up and would come in. And it's the same process. It's really just the same thing, the animals, the trees, whatever. It's how you clarify with yourself about the sequence of what you're in and what's appropriate. I think that's pretty good.
Anybody else?
Yeah, how about Bob?
Bob Leichner, want to add anything? Or if Bob Leichner doesn't want to add anything, does anybody have any other questions or comments?
It works so much better when I'm not muted.
Uh-huh.
I'm a technology guy too, so embarrassing. As I was commenting earlier in the day, there are so many times in the course of the day when I will notice myself coming up out of center, losing it. It can be as simple as a freaking tablet's not, technology, or just the feeling that I have in myself as I walk across the room. And this settle, ground, open, breathe, that little 4-word set that allows me to do a reset, so that when something does come my way, I don't have as far to go to be in that position where I can relate. One of my challenges in life is to be able to come into the dojo and not have to do as much of a transition to be in that space. Just to adjust so that my normal, as I move through the world, leaves good ripples. The people that I touch, the situations I move through, are left with good ripples that will spread out from there.
Thanks, Bob. Anybody else have anything they'd like to throw out on the?
Yes, it's Danny here from New Zealand, not far from where Mike lives. I really want to say thank you to the three of you, how you've been really so transparent and sharing your experiences and your inner world and how you experience it. And I'm thinking of something in today's from the three of you has touched me, and it's the depth of what you've been talking about and the deepening of our practice, and also how normal it can be in our lives, that it is a normal to have an experience of joy, to hear the sound of your own voice, and to be in touch with the trees in our environment. So I'm very thankful for you today, and we've been really lucky in New Zealand. As you know, we've only had about maybe 8 weeks total that we couldn't train, and it's sort of fantastic to go back to the dojo and start touching people and throwing and being thrown. Yet I've found it as I've been repurposed by Nadeau's classes, and especially these last few classes in this sensei revisited, to take the inner practices into the physical world and marry them together somehow. So I'm very, very thankful for the information that you shared, and thank you. That's all.
I want to say, Danny, it's always been a pleasure to see you every Friday night, and I can remember visiting with you in New Zealand. But you said how deep our presentations were. Aikido is really deep. It can be, and how deep it goes for us is up to us as Aikidoka, right? It's just waiting for us to, sink into the depths of it. And we're lucky to have Nadeau Sensei as a guide, but he can only guide. We have to, each one of us, want to go deeper. And, I think that, we're lucky when we find other people who want to do the same, and that's how practice starts.
Laurin, when you were speaking there, it reminded me of a Sufi saying, and that they say that the divine is as close as your jugular. I like that.
Well,
It's never far away. And I think the three of you have demonstrated that today, how easy it is to touch it. It's not something that requires huge work. Sure, it's a job to do, and there needs to be persistence, but it's very, very close by.
thank you, Danny.
I'd like to share an observation that I've been having on my walks. I go on this walk over at the beach out here. There's a path that maybe, I don't know, it's 6 to 8 feet wide, and it's not heavily trafficked, right? There's some people walking towards you and some people behind you, but for the most part, it's pretty sparse in terms of the people that are walking there, believe it or not. And one thing I've noticed is that as people approach me and as I approach people, there's a certain point at which there's some sort of recognition of the other person. And there's also no real acknowledgement of that. So, growing up in Jersey, you would often acknowledge them, hey, how you doing? Or, tip your head or something like that. But in this case, there isn't. And yet, as that approach occurs, there is a moment in which there's a recognition of this other person's connection to you in a way. And so I've just been exploring it in terms of not trying to do anything with it or make stuff up about it, but just kind of tuning into the experience of this as we pass. And it's really interesting. I don't have any answers to it or any smart thing to say about it, but it is something that I've been observing, and it's almost like a phenomena that takes place when that acknowledgement and connection takes place. So anyway, this came up when Elaine, you were doing your thing with the distance and connecting. In this case, for me, I was using this lamp in my room here, but. Anyway, I thought I'd share it because I thought it was it's an interesting observation that I think fits in with what you were talking about.
Yeah. That's
I'd
really
like to share, just as great as the classes have been both this week and last week, the community spirit has been even more heartening than that. So thank you all for that.
The gauntlet is down, Bob.
Wow.
Ah.
I am just chuckling again, thinking, Roy, as we pass people on our pathways, one of the things that's a measure of how far I have to go, I will sometimes be approaching somebody and it's very clear they own the middle of the sidewalk and nothing's going to get in their way. And to still feel that, really, and to relax and let them have their sidewalk. Someday it will be less of a bump as well. But those exchanges.
Yeah. Yeah, and back in the days when it was okay to walk through a crowded subway station,
Right.
I found that it was sometimes kind of interesting to walk along and just let everybody figure out what they need to do. And it wasn't a matter of of whether I get to go where I need to go. I know where I'm going to go. So I know where I'm going to go. And I'm just going to let them figure out how to adjust. Some don't adjust, some do. I adjust. But there's this process that is kind of enjoyable and fluid in a way where it's very different than, I got to get from A to B or I'll miss that train. You get from A to B in a way where everybody moves in the way they need to. which is interesting if you're catching the last train at midnight. That's a bit of a stampede, but you can still do it. You can still, within that, sense of urgency, you can still actually take the training that we've been doing, take all of this training that you've been doing into feeling, okay, A to B, can I still be fluid with a more urgent A to B? Just be fluid with it and let everybody else do what they need to do. Just a thought.
This is a really interesting topic, actually. I certainly started off in this particular area with getting very annoyed with people, particularly people that were 2 or 3 abreast and taking up the whole pavement, and clearly expecting me to jump into the road in order that they could continue their conversation. And then I decided, no, that's not going to happen anymore. So then I took on the, I don't know what you call it, assertive Aikido type attitude of, I'm going along the path and you are going to move. And it works. I mean, people get out of the way when you do that, but it's also not a particularly empowering or satisfying feeling, really. And so now realizing that actually, if I change myself and allow myself, as you've been talking about, to connect with the other person, then a more natural process can happen, where it's, it's possibly their lack of awareness causes them not to notice the fact of what they're doing. But if I connect with them, then without doing anything, I have an effect on them. And that's been an interesting process.
Thanks, Mike. So we have 5 minutes left. Couple minutes left. Anybody wants to play Stump the Sensei, or
That's too easy.
want to throw us a curveball? Go ahead.
Well, I think you were throwing the curveball in being asked to teach Aikido minus uke. I think that was the curveball.
Well, I think it's true for all of the instructors in this virtual workshop last week, this week, next week, the week after. I know in talking to the instructors, everybody is challenged by how can I bring Aikido to everybody through Zoom, we have a high bar to meet with Nadeau sensei, who's managed to do it all these weeks. And, hopefully we've each contributed some little iota of insight that, complements Nadeau sensei's core teachings. He's a precious connection to O sensei, and there aren't so many of them left. And so, I think we're all been touched by him over the years, and inspired. I hope I'm still practicing. Sensei's birthday was this week. He turned 84. I'm 70. I hope I can keep practicing for as long as he has, with as much, not just dedication, but continuous questing, searching, aspiring to become more of himself, to realize his bestowed mission, to realize his full self. That's all we can do, really, is our own work on ourselves. And it's hard by yourself. I'm lucky to have a stable relationship and a companionship of friends and fellow Zoomites. But it's going to be strange going out into the public again. It literally has become the new normal. And I think that as the pandemic as we released from the pandemic, hopefully in the next some months, there's going to be a lot of complicated transformation in society as we start to see the impact of the pandemic beyond what's reported on television. And we need Aikido even more to be able to adapt to this changing world, to keep our center, to keep our equanimity, to keep our openness and our willingness to approach things with loving reconciliation, because there's going to be a lot of change in the world. And, Aikido is a good preparation for it and a good approach to dealing with change, I find. Kenny, I want to pass it back to you.
I was just going to say thank you very much to the three of you. It's been great this afternoon. Very much appreciated.
Well, thank all of you. Thank all of you who came and, shared in your attention, your thoughts, and all of you who've participated. Thank you to the teachers. Ken, are you there?
I'm here.
Go ahead, kid.
Well, thanks again to everyone. We will be doing the same. We'll have another session next Saturday. And of course, the regular Friday Zoom session. Any feedback, you have our email addresses, you have the mailing list, and you have the Discord channel. Did I miss anything? Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and we'll see you on Friday.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Great class.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Great training with you.
Good night. Stay safe.
See you guys next week.